Hi everyone, Masha is back, and today I'm reviewing the Turner's Acryl Gouache, which is acrylic gouache produced by Turner Colors. It's a Japanese brand, and this specific set may look a little bit different from regular Turner sets. It's because I bought this one in Japan, and this is a collaboration between Yusuke Nakamura. It's a famous Japanese illustrator, and like the cover, the box was created by this illustrator, and Turner. And that's not just the package, it's also the choice of colors. I will show you the colors in a bit, but yes, the box is absolutely beautiful and it's very unique, and I really wanted to buy something special from Japan, so I bought this set by Yusuke Nakamura and Turner. In the set we have a leaflet, and normally you will also have it, but this one is also special because, again, it's a collab, so it has a little story of the illustrator, some drawings and illustrations that this illustrator makes, but also of course the information about the acrylic gouache. And for now I wanted just to tell you that the brand says that this acrylic gouache is very versatile. It will work on pretty much any painting, not really painting surface, because they also say that it will work on styrofoam, on fabric, and even on galvanized steel. I know that even acrylic paint, regular acrylic paint, works not really well on galvanized steel unless it's very well primed and sanded, and also primed in a way that this galvanization goes away. But anyway, that's what they claim. I will not be testing on all the surfaces because I don't have galvanized steel or mortar or aluminum, but I will test it on watercolor paper, which I normally use for acrylic and gouache small paintings. And also, as it is an acrylic gouache, of course it will dry pretty quick. It will also dry to a water resistant finish, though the finish will be still matte and opaque as we used to in just regular gouache. It will be already immediately water resistant, and we cannot re-wet it once it's dried completely on canvas, on paper, on palette, doesn't matter, on brushes as well, so please keep your brushes clean. And also what brands recommend, they recommend to use it with water, like 50% of water to paint. As you can see, the ratio is 2:1, so 2 parts of paint for 1 part of water. They also say that, as I said, it's a quick drying acrylic gouache, and it dries in up to 15 minutes, 5 to 15 minutes, 5, which is very fast. And if you're mixing or blending, spray it immediately once you squeezed it out on palette to make it dry a little longer, otherwise you will not be able to mix it or blend it really nicely. And yes, that's about it. Let's see the colors. So what we have here, we have primary colors, of course, red, yellow, and blue. We have white and black. We also have burnt sienna. We'll also have orange, green, and we have 3 pastel colors and 1 metallic color. The metallic is a gold light, and 3 pastel colors are pastel emerald green, pastel lavender, and pastel pink. Most of the colors are mixed pigmented, but there are a few like black, white, and yellow, and red that are single pigmented, which is good, and like primary colors, except for blue, should be single pigmented, but this is sky blue, so it's not like primary blue, primary cyan that can be also in some sets. It's a sky blue, so it's a mixed color, mixed with blue pigment, yellow pigment, and white pigment, as normally we will mix sky colors. Let's look at the tubes a little bit closer. So the tubes are plastic tubes. They're quite small. This set has, I think, 11 milliliter tubes, but in general they have different sizes and even a pouch of paint if you will buy separately colors you need. But this is an 11 milliliter plastic tube. It's still very firm and sturdy. The lid is very nice. It's very tight. You can see it's filled nicely. The paint is not overflowing, so you're not wasting anything. And also what we have here, we have just general information about the brand, that it's made in Japan. I'll need to show you. Made in Japan, and of course it has acrylic polymer emulsion versus regular gouache that has gum arabic, right? And it is opaque, matte, and water resistant paint. So on the back, of course, if we will buy it on Amazon now, it will have English version, but because I bought it in Japan, it has everything in Japanese. This is just basic precautions, like do not inhale it, do not eat it, keep it out of kids' reach, etc. And there's also information about the colors, what's the color name, what is light fastness. Based on the Turner scale 3-star, it's the maximum light fastness, so it's the excellent light fastness. There are some colors they have 2 stars, for example permanent red, and there are also colors that will have 1 star. I think that was pastel pink. Let me see. Yes, pastel pink has only 1 star, so 3 stars excellent light fastness, 2 stars good light fastness, 1 star fair light fastness, and no star poor light fastness, so it's not permanent, it's not fade resistant, and there's no other really valuable information on the tube. Yeah, there's a Mansell color chart information, but I'm not sure if they put in it on American on the paints that are sold in States, because I know that in Japan they're obsessed with the Mansell. If you will buy a Holbein or Liquitex in Japan, which I also did, I bought Liquitex there, they will also put the Mansell numbers of each color on the back of the tube. So yeah, so far it looks very, very simple. Let's test the colors. I have like I printed on watercolor paper the color swatch kind of template. I made it just in Canva. I can share it if you want. Yes, and I printed it on watercolor paper because, of course, you can print it on regular paper and it will also work fine, but regular paper doesn't really work well with printing paper. I mean, with acrylic, it can be too thin for it, so I just printed on watercolor paper, and of course, I put the name of the paint, so later on I can easier navigate my swatches. So yeah, let's see what is the opacity of the color, the true color, and how it interacts with water. Before I proceed to test, I want to say that the 11 milliliter tube feels a little bit too small for a longer run, because if you're squeezing it and if you're using it directly from the tube without mixing it with water and using it as opaquely as it can possibly be, then you will burn through it pretty quickly. Let's see also the consistency. The consistency reminds you more of acrylic paint. It's kind of closer to heavy body acrylic paint than it is to soft body. It has a little smell similar to acrylics, but not really strong one. And as we can see, it is very opaque. I started with not with the black one because I thought it's a little bit boring. So I started with green color, and I'm also testing it with more water just to see how it works. We also know that as it is acrylic gouache, it will dry pretty fast. But while it's still wet, we can still lift the color, add more water, mix it around, blend it, etc. But yes, it does feel a little bit. I was feeling like, oh, maybe I should not squeeze that much because, well, it's not a lot in there. And also because it will be fast drying, so you better immediately spray it when you use it. Yellow, of course, as expected, has to be more transparent, because if you do a few layers, it can increase the opacity of the color, but in general yellows are quite transparent. That is a permanent yellow deep, which is sort of orange, in fact. That part, if we add water, just as the brand suggests, it covers really well without losing its opacity. Permanent red is quite opaque, even though most reds are quite transparent or semi-transparent in most sets. This one looks quite opaque to me. Just with more water to see how it interacts. And of course I can always, if I squeeze too much, I can immediately try to mix the colors. For example, here I have yellow and green, so they will make like a grass green color together. And with some water, the mixing is super easy, as you can see. And the new color will also be very, very, very opaque, thick, unless I will add more water, of course, and even more water, right? And we also have here like orange and red, also to see how they can make like a vermilion color. Orange, red, mixing very nice. The consistency is super buttery, very, very, very enjoyable to work with, like a brick color, almost brown, but still like terracotta. Of course, with all the water will be more transparent, but still very nice and easy to apply. So yes, mixing is very, very, very nice so far, as I tested. Let's move on to other colors. And as you can see already, for just opaque application without any water, it has been less, I believe, than even 5 minutes since I put the green down, and definitely less than 10 minutes, and it is already dry, so there will be no way for us to reactivate it. Golden is very, very beautiful. Let's see the pastel colors. We have the emerald, very opaque, nice. Maybe more water. We'll see how it dries. Lavender, also very opaque, very nice. With some water. Pink, also pastel color, very opaque, very nice. With water, even paler, but still very beautiful color. Very transparent immediately, yet beautiful. Let's see if they can somehow mix together. I want to mix some pink with some red. Oh, that's a very beautiful color. It has some water in it, so it flows easy, you can see, but it is a very beautiful color. If we mix two pastel colors like a lavender and emerald, for example, I think I have here in the mix more lavender, but still they will neutralize each other, and you will have like a blue-gray, absolutely beautiful color. Also, as you can see, it has water in it, so it flows and it applies extremely easy, and it looks just beautiful. And you can go on experimenting with colors like indefinitely. That I just added the green middle to that blue-gray pastel color, and it also looks very, very beautiful. Okay, let's keep going to some swatches. Let's start with a sky blue. Sky blue is a mixed color, so it can be not as opaque as single pigmented. It is semi-opaque, I would call it, but of course with a bit more layers it can perform better. And with water, flows nicely, and also more transparent color. Let's move on to burnt sienna. It's good that we have it in the set, so we can work with skin tones, with landscapes, easy. With water, very nice as well. White should be very opaque. It is quite opaque. I wouldn't say it's the most opaque color in the set, but it's definitely opaque. With even more water, it becomes more transparent. I experimented with printing the like opacity swatch testers, but it doesn't really work out because the inks can be lifted. I didn't think about that, and that's why I had some ink lifted here. But yes, anyway, the white is quite opaque, maybe not 100%, but it is a quite opaque color, so I like it. And last is black. The dry brush first. With more water, of course, it flows easier than it was. It also becomes a little bit more transparent. So what I can say, I think Turner Acrylic Gouache positions itself as very, very opaque. Definitely pastel colors are extremely opaque, and most of the colors are actually quite opaque. Even the yellows and reds, they're supposed to be semi transparent, semi-opaque, but they are actually doing pretty well. Of course, with just kind of dry brush application, with more and more water, they will become more and more transparent. But anyway, I like it. The opacity, I think, is very great, and as we saw, the opacity stays great when we mix colors. And as I was mixing colors before, let's keep doing that. And for example, I'm mixing now blue and our sky blue and the burnt sienna. It will make a nice gray blue, dark gray blue, almost black color. And of course, when we add in white to any of the colors, they will become muted, and it will also look very, very, very beautiful. So I think mixing colors is absolutely easy, and the new colors, what you get, are very beautiful. And the opacity is great. The transparency, if you need it with water, is great. Drying time is extremely fast, so please keep that in mind. Don't squeeze too much paint on the palette, and spray it, mist it. Or I also use like a bottle like this with water, and I drip a little bit of water in paint when I mix it for like a more transparent watercolor-like application. But if you are going just with a dry brush without really too much water, it will dry pretty fast. So that was less than 10 minutes. I think approximately 10 minutes, less than 15, and the brand, as we saw, says it's 5 to 15 minutes. And yes, even with some water, it is already completely dry. Even the gold color is dry already. And yes, so please be careful with drying time. As we saw, it's easy to apply, very easy to apply, especially with a little bit of water. The paint just flows and it covers super nicely the area. I really like that. It's very satisfying to work with. Mixing is also very nice, but of course, if you're adding more and more water, the transparency will become greater. Then you just mix in direct colors without too much water. Okay, let's get this paint a real test. Let's paint something. I will be just testing very, very simple ideas that anyone can repeat immediately, so we can just quickly test the paints. I have a little reference in front of me on my laptop. So yeah, I normally either look on Pinterest or directly on Instagram Reels for some references, and I can change color palette, I can add some details, but well, yes, I can also let it be as it is. That's a little like an evening sunset sky idea, I would call it. So I'm mixing white and black to create gray, and then I'm also using just white in the middle because I want to put orange at the bottom. And I already have orange here also squeezed and prepared. I'm only squeezing just a little bit of paint because I remember that it's super fast drying and I don't want to have any issues. I'll just try to blend it nicely. Oh wow, that is already dry, that white. I just put it on there. That is extremely fast drying. Yeah, it's quite hard to blend, to be honest, and you can see I just put that white on, and well, there was practically no time for me to blend, even though they all had water in it. What I will do is I will add a little bit of orange to that gray, and I will just work over it then, I guess, to somehow make it look like I blended it. So yes, now you know that the blending will be challenging, so please prepare water and blend with wet brush. Do not use just dry brush kind of blending technique. That paint dries extremely fast. I think for beginners it may be slightly challenging, to be honest. Even for me it's challenging, but well, I consider myself not a professional, a guru painter, so it kind of makes sense. Okay, I am somehow satisfied with what we have. Now what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to have a very thin brush, like a tiny detailed brush. I may even consider this brush, it's even smaller. Once it's dry, I'm going to create some leaves and some silhouettes. While it's drying, I want to quickly show you what I did with Holbein. That was just regular gouache, but also after I'm done with little swatches, I will show you the acrylic gouache by Holbein to compare with Turner's acrylic gouache. But yes, that was the Holbein. I really loved to work with details, and the blending was very nice, but that was regular gouache. So I look forward to compare the two acrylic gouache to see what how they perform compared to each other. Of course, we know that Holbein is a kind of like a more premium brand than Turner. They're both actually Japanese, and Holbein will be way more expensive than Turner, but I'm still curious how the two can be compared. So let's see. It's almost dry. All right, that can be one. Let's move on to the next one. So I've quickly tested pretty much all colors that Turner set had, my Turner set had, because of course I had a special set with golden and pastel colors. I love how it works for illustration and blending and simple flat colors. I think it works very well. I just was working in a simple sketchbook. Of course, this paper is thinner than a watercolor paper, and you can see that paint and water started warping it a little bit. You can still flatten it, and you also, I think, noticed how quickly everything is drying. And actually I think there is pretty much no color shift between wet and dry colors. However, I think if you are mixing and making a more transparent and lighter colors, for example here for the grass I was making different greens, lighter greens, they are not all visible, so they either dry darker than they are when they are wet, or simply they are so transparent they cannot be layered. So also keep that in mind, that watered down and very transparent colors, they may not be perfect for layering. But other than that, I think also dried painting looks better than it's wet. For example, I was very concerned about these waves, and of course I did it like in 3 minutes, but still when it's drying and the more you work with it, the better it looks at the end. The tomato looks very nice, the blending was nice, and as long as you will use wet brush, because I started with drier brush that I usually do with acrylic, but it dried so quickly that I could barely rework it. But it also a plus because you can layer multiple layers faster because it is fast drying. So within a few minutes, like when I was blending, it dried within 30 seconds, I think. Of course, it's a small area. But also it's good because I immediately was able to layer some black over it. Here the same. So as you can see, you can create a very simple designs very quickly. And of course I need to remove the tape so it has finished nice look to it. So yes, this we have 4 little pictures. I really love how opaque the colors of Turner are, how good is the coverage. The second you add a little bit of water, it is beautiful, but they are really fast drying. So please keep some extender because as it is acrylic gouache, it will work good with any acrylic medium. So with retarders, with gag, with a slow drying medium, it will work. And if you're working on a larger scale, not like this tiny pictures, you will need to use it to properly blend colors, to have enough time to mix colors, to test the area, because I think that is a little bit too fast drying. But other than that, mixing, blending, layering, doing just flat color and working with brush, as you can see, there is no brush strokes unless you really want them to show, as I wanted here or here, or with waves. But other than that, the blending can be very smooth and nice. The texture and the brush strokes can also be very nice. You can mix, because some of these colors are straight from the tube, like for example the sky blue, but most of the colors you see here are blended, and I did it very easily and very quickly. So I am pretty happy with what we have here. However, let's compare quickly to Holbein acrylic gouache. So Holbein acrylic gouache, I also have a set of 12 colors. As you can see immediately, the first thing that I was already mentioning, the size of the tube. I love that size much better. This is 20 milliliters. You feel like you can go somewhere with it. Of course, because I have a special color set, my color palette is slightly different, and it is special towards the needs of that illustrator that uses this. But in general, they will also have like a more generic palette, like I find with Holbein, and I really love how they do the primaries in different temperatures, and pretty much it's like the whole color wheel, except they also have like brown here, burnt sienna, black, and white. As I said, I love the tubes, the size of the tubes, and I wish to compare some colors that are somehow similar. For example, I can compare burnt sienna, orange, yellow, deep green, reds, and probably blue. Yes, I can compare the blues, and let's see. I'll start with Holbein because we technically already did the swatches for Turner. I'm just quickly making swatches for Holbein, and I want to see how fast it will dry. What else we have? We have the same yellow. It is also pretty fast drying. I can already see that the dry brush is already kind of dried. And also there's a little bit of water, dry and with water. Let's see the sky blue. Just dry brush. And the red I will test last, but I also wanted you to see the different consistency. So Holbein acrylic gouache is much runnier than Turner. Turner is more heavier body to my liking, to my kind of preference. That is scarlet in Holbein, and in Turner it was permanent red. So I will just use the swatch I already made. I think Holbein green, it's Viridian, and here we have green middle. So yes, the Viridian is darker. They dry pretty fast. Same when they are just dry brush. With more water, Holbein dries slower, I think, than Turner, but quite same. The coverage is also great with water, and for both paints, Turner and Holbein. Yellow, I think the lemon yellow and permanent lemon are slightly different in two brands, and the lemon yellow in Holbein looks brighter than it is in Turner's set. The sky blues are quite different, I think. I think the Turner's color is more opaque, but also the Turner's color compared to Holbein colors, even though they're both acrylic, Holbein, some of them looks more acrylic. For example, yellow, it almost looks like acrylic paint, like a little bit semi-gloss, but some colors of Turner, they look completely opaque, not chalky, but closer to matte chalky than to acrylic. So the finish is the gouache finish, and I believe that in Holbein, the finish is closer to acrylic, even though it's still on opaque matte side. And with water, I like how Turner blue worked out. Permanent red is, I think, more opaque in Turner set than, but it's also different reds, right? So I think it's more opaque in Turner's. So probably Turner is about right, saying that their colors are the most opaque, even though Holbein, I love their colors, they're quite opaque, but I can see that even the dark green, the Viridian, it is pretty like semi-transparent, I think, compared to that permanent green middle. You can see slightly the black, but I think it is more opaque than this Viridian. Yeah, so I would say they're pretty much performing quite the same. There are a few light difference in drying time and a few light difference in different colors and how bright they are or what shade they have, but in general I believe if you are a beginner, they will perform pretty much the same. I worked with Holbein gouache. I love it, but I really also enjoyed painting with acrylic gouache from Turner just now. I think it works easy, and if you're looking for an affordable substitute for Holbein, Turner will do, absolutely will do. It has opaque and nice colors, even though Holbein is like a well-known premium brand of gouache and acrylic gouache paints. As I said, probably the biggest difference for me, the biggest preference for me, is the size of the tubes in Holbein, 20 milliliters in the set versus only 11 milliliters in Turner, which to me felt a little bit kind of too small. You need to constantly think, oh, am I using too much? Am I gonna have it for a while, or after a few large-scale paintings, it will be gone. So also that's why I used just a little squares in my already tiny sketchbook, just not to use a lot of paint. And also because I was mixing and not just using directly from the tube. So overall, let's get back to where we started. This is our Turner acrylic gouache set. It's a Japanese brand that claimed to produce one of the world's finest pigments and most opaque acrylic gouache. I do believe that they are very, very opaque. They do have nice colors, and even pastel, metallic, or regular colors. All of them look consistently good. All of them look consistently good used with water or directly from the tube. All of them have a consistent consistency. They do not have any binder separating from the tube, any issues whatsoever. They work brilliantly with water, very smooth, easy application. The paint just flows, and you really need just a little bit of water. Even how the brand says you need to add up to 50% of water to your paint mix, it's not even really that. Even just you dip the brush, and it already helps tremendously to spread the paint on paper or on canvas if you're working with canvas. And also I do believe that they're quite fast drying, even a little bit faster than acrylic paints, and I do believe that you need to be extra careful with that because it will affect the mixing and the blending options for you, and it also will affect how you can manipulate the paint on the palette, that you need to squeeze a little bit or you need to constantly wet it down. But if you want a more opaque coverage, constant wetting down the paint on the palette may not work for you. So then just squeeze a little tiny bit and work in smaller areas, like divide your larger painting in smaller blocks and work with them to make sure your paint doesn't dry too fast to the point that you will not be able to revet it because it is acrylic polymer, and you will not be able to fix any mistakes. So that's probably the concern I have. So overall, I loved how it worked. I loved working with them. I think they're great for beginners, and they're very, very affordable compared to Holbein. And also just two things that I would like to see slightly improved. It's the drying time, maybe a little bit slower, and also the size of the tubes. I believe the 11 milliliter tube is a little bit too small for long-term projects and for a lot of illustrations and sketches. But overall, yes, I hope you also enjoyed Turner's acrylic gouache, and if you have any works that you've done with them or any input you want to share, please leave a comment and let's discuss. Thank you very much for watching.